Hello, sweet friend. My name is Maike, and in this video, I have a little fun DIY project to share with you because I'll show you how you can use your fountain pen inks to create some custom markers. So I really like these Ecoline brush pen markers. I like how thick the body is. I like the tip. Really, really fun. Now, I wish they had some more color options, and I do know that you can buy their watercolor ink that they use to fill these pens as bottles, and they're actually pretty cheap. I think one bottle is about $5, and you can mix them and create your own colors and fill an empty marker with those. So that is definitely an option and probably a little bit cheaper than using fountain pen inks. But I was like, I do have fountain pen inks already, and as you know, with bottles, those take quite a while to go through if you quote-unquote only use them to fill up your fountain pens. So I was like, why not use those to fill up some markers and create some custom colors? So I went looking around and I found these. These are by the brand Pebeo, and they're called the Colorex markers. And from the build, they're really similar to the Ecoline brush pen markers, both in the size, but also in the tip, in that it has this brush tip. The Ecoline are a little softer, and I'll show you, I'll do some swatches so you can see how they behave. But, I mean, they're pretty similar. And the cool thing about these Pebeo markers is that they cost about $3 a piece, which is pretty good, I would say, considering that, for example, this beautiful thing right here, this is by the brand Fonte. I found this on Yoseka.com, but I would assume that places like Jetpens also sell these. This is about $7 per pen, because you have to buy both the pen as well as the cap. Fun thing is you can pick out fun cap colors. Now, the benefit of this version, the Fonte version, or Fonte, I don't know, compared to the Pebeo, is that this comes with a converter, and so filling and refilling and changing ink colors is really easy, and you can clean out the brush tip there, whereas these ones, you can refill them with the same color, but I would assume that changing the color is going to be a little tricky because, and I'll show you what they look like on the inside. They have that weird foamy thing. I don't know if it's foam in the end. So to open these, you take out this rubber stopper, and sometimes you have to be pretty aggressive with that. So yeah, they have this typical foam core, and it soaks up the ink, and I would assume that if this runs out of one color and you refill it with a different color, that there's probably still going to be some residue of the old color in here, and so you'll never fully change the color, I would assume. But I don't know. And I haven't found a place that sells just the tips and just these cores separately. Now, there is the Tom Studio has the Ren and the Lumos, where you can buy brush tips, and they also fill with fountain pen inks. And there they sell the tips separately and the cores separately, so you can change colors. But since the body is made out of metal, they're also costing $40 a pen. So while that is better for the environment, it is not so great on the wallet. All right, so that's sort of the basic lay of the land. And in terms of choices there, in terms of pen models or marker models, I think we should... Maybe we'll do a writing test first so you can see the different tips in action. And then we're gonna fill this with an ink so you can see what the filling process is like. Does that sound good? I think that sounds good. Okay, maybe I'll zoom you in a little bit for the tips so you can see. And maybe I'll grab a Tombow as well, just in case, because I mean, for coloring, sometimes it doesn't matter quite as much how the tip works, but then it does matter if you're using these for calligraphy, I would assume, because the softer the nib, probably the harder it is. And why am I... I'll just put this to the side here. And then, so this white paper is... That is the Canson pen and ink. It's pretty good. And this is cream Midori paper. Just to show you. Oh, and now the focus is like, what is going on? Okay, most of you are probably familiar with the Ecoline. And I am not very good at lettering, so I'm not even gonna try. So that's how this is working out. Then compare that to this Colorex marker. And this is filled with Sailor Afternoon Tea. And I don't know if you can tell. So it's a little thinner, the line is a little thinner, and overall the tip is also harder. But it lays the ink down beautifully. And I guess I could show you on the Midori paper too. And if you're familiar with the Sailor ink, and maybe we can do a little swatching on the side there, inks do come out lighter. I'm assuming that that has something to do with the fact that the ink isn't in here liquid. It's not coming out liquid. It's contained in this material, and so obviously it's not coming out as wet. So it changes the color a little bit. And, well, I guess I can show you now too. This one is filled with Vinta Sirena, or Sirena. And this is a ink color that usually has a lot of chromo shading, or has beauty in big swatches too. It changes color from like a green to a gray brown. Really, really pretty. And so I was really curious what happens to chromo shading when you put inks in a marker. And as you can see, because it's coming out so dry and not so wet, it loses the chromo shading. So that's unfortunate, because I was like, what if we can have chromo shading markers? But it's still beautiful. But yeah, you're not getting any of the typical ink behaviors. So that, I would say, is maybe a big thing to consider there. And then, yeah, let's show you the Fonte. This is the softest. I might have said that. This is really, really soft. I don't know if you can tell here. This is the most like a brush. And the ink also comes out a little wetter, because obviously it's in a converter rather than a in those form thingies. Not form, foam. So yeah, this is really, really soft. This is Tono and Lim's Dear Bear, and yeah, it's the most like the original color. And I've had this in here for a couple weeks now, so it's keeping wet pretty decently. So this is, I mean, you know, you are paying $7 per pen, but it's quite fun. And if you were to pick some really easy to use colors, say browns and pinks, some almost neutral colors that you'll be using over and over, I would think that it's worth investing in this. And, you know, now I'm saying that about the chromo shading. I wonder if you could get some of those ink characteristics in these. Yeah, now I wish I don't know why I put this brown yellow in there. I mean, it's a beautiful color, but now I don't have a second one to try that out. But yeah, there's that. And then just to show you, obviously the Tombows are pretty stiff, but I would assume that if you're interested in markers, you know what a Tombow feels like and sounds like, and I guess we can try the Fonte on the Midori cream paper. But as you can see, I mean, the color payoff is beautiful. And this is maybe running a little dry. Maybe, again, I haven't used it all that much, but I bet we can just force some. Oh, that was too much. Now it's coming out in the front. And with all of these, you can obviously mix inks before putting them in. Yeah, look at that. That is just pure inky goodness. Yeah, these are quite fun. Here I was kind of thinking this video would be focusing more on the Colorex, but I actually do quite like this. I just don't use this kind of yellow all that much to color in. Well, actually, I don't know, this Tombow. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Let's fill this one so you can see what the filling process is like. And for that, I picked out my sesame oil by Linen Toolbar because it's a nice beigey gray, and like I said, just trying to focus on colors that I can see myself using a lot as a marker, and I do feel like this is a nice neutral that neutrals often get overlooked in marker lineups. I feel like markers tend to have a lot of variety in the colorful department, so for the in-between shades, I think it's really fun to pick something like fountain pen ink. All right, so we have our marker. As you saw in the beginning, I struggled off this little rubber topper. And now you will need either a syringe, which is what I'm gonna use, or a eyedropper. Is that what they're called? Yes, I think so, but mine are not clean, so I'm just going to do it with a syringe, which, I mean, you don't have to go in very far. I think I'm going to zoom you back out. I think that's going to be more what needs to happen. Okay, and I can tell you right now that you will know when you've put or starting to put too much ink in here, because it's just going to start dripping off of the brush tip. So maybe if you're unsure how much you're putting in, just put something underneath the marker while filling it. And on the back, it has this explanation that just says to put in 5 pipettes. Yeah, pipettes, eyedroppers. But they're just saying 5 pipettes or 5 droppers. So it doesn't really say, are eyedroppers always the same amount that fits in them, or do they have different sizes? You know, so that's a little tricky to know. But again, you will see the ink sort of coming through. So here's there. And then you're just gonna start pouring it in, and the material is thirsty, and it's just gonna soak that all up. I don't know if you can tell, it's right here, and it's starting to wander on down there. The one thing also I will say about these markers is they unfortunately did not think through how you're gonna identify your different marker colors. Like, there's no way to name these or put like a color code on these, which is a little disappointing. So I'll have to figure that out. So as you can see, it's wondering what is all the way down here. So that was 2. And as you can tell, a sample might not quite be enough to fill this up. So that's about 3. And it's starting to show here right at the, I don't know. Can you see that? It's big cinema here, right there. So I think we need to go 1 more. And like I said, I think that, oh, and I'm filling them about this much in the syringe. and this is number 4. The Ecoline watercolor inks, or I think Schminke also does the Aqua Drop. They're, ooh, yeah, that was enough. See, now it's coming out at the end there. Yeah, so, oh, shoot. Schminke has some, and there's other brands as well. It's definitely cheaper than a bottle of fountain pen ink, but if you already have fountain pen ink and are looking for ways to either use your colors up or you're in love with a specific ink color, yeah, see, I could have done a little bit less, then it wouldn't have been so messy and I wouldn't have wasted the ink. But yeah, live and learn. I also know that apart from the Fonte brand, there is the Carapo pens, which are also empty markers. They're a little bit more like fine liners, but I think they come in a fine liner tip and in a brush tip. And those are even cheaper, I think, than these Colorex markers. But the way that you put the stopper in once you've filled the pen, I've read comments that said that, oh man, this breaks my heart a little bit there with the ink. I can't change that right now. You can't reopen the pen, I heard people say, so they are not refillable. So once you've gone through the ink that you put in, you're gonna have to throw the entire pen away. And then you do, once you are putting the stopper back in, you do have to push quite a bit to really seal that back there. And sometimes when you do that, you put pressure on the core, so it does push out more ink. So just be mindful, even if your pen wasn't leaking before like mine, yeah, you might get a little burp there when you close it up. Yeah, I put way too much in there. Can you see that right there? I mean, it might soak up a little bit more, but there's some, like a lot of liquid right here. Yeah, I did overfill that. Man, that is a bummer. But yeah, look at how wet that comes out of here. That's pretty though. So yeah, here is sesame oil in a marker. I almost forgot to show you the comparisons between what the ink looks like in a swatch and written with a dip pen versus how they come out of the marker, so you can see the difference. So here's the Sailor Afternoon Tea, so much lighter, a little bit more salmon-y almost in color. And then I think this difference is even more extreme, the Vinta Sirena, and that's what I mean. I was hoping to maybe get some of this chromo shading in the color, but obviously that does not come through. And this looks a lot more blue too. So very, very interesting. I mean, it's definitely related, but yeah, you can expect some color change and you can expect to lose some of the fun characteristics, but nonetheless, this is kind of a fun thing to play around with. So let me know if you played with any of these markers before, the Fonte, other empty markers, the Carapo, the Toms. Do you have a favorite? Is that, something where you're still exploring? I would love to hear what you have found out and experimented with, because that stuff is really, really fun, and I don't know what to do about this. I don't know if I can make any art with that or if I can just suck it up a little bit. It's just a question of, do I put that back in the bottle? I don't know. But I think this is actually working. Look at that. Well, I'll see what I can do. Maybe I'll just put it in a sample vial to add to a pen fill, and then at least it's not all the way in the bottle. All right. Well, thank you for watching my messes and always leaving such kind comments. And yeah, do let me know if you have any experience with fountain pen ink in markers of some sort. All right, that's it for today. Until next time, happy journaling!